from the home of the three-piece combos, Pugilism Company. This is Reed, BBS. Black Burt Sugar, Bachelor's in Boxing Studies. Sean Porter defeats Danny Garcia, becoming the WBC welterweight champion of the world. As I wrote about in my latest article on Pugilism Company, that's PUGILISMCO.com. On the website, I spoke of the Cool Kids Club, consisting of elite 147 pounders. And with this defeat at the hands of Sean Porter, Danny Garcia, he's now on the outside looking in. He's no longer on the VIP list. Now he's got to wait outside with the regular folks behind the little ropes and whatnot. He can't just walk up to the door and get in right away. He ain't on the VIP list no more. Porter wins by unanimous decision, scores 116-112 and 115-113 two times. Could have even been more decisive of a verdict than that if Porter hadn't got too cute in rounds 1 and 2. And I get it. Every athlete, and especially every fighter, has what I like to call competitive arrogance. That's the belief that anything you can do, I can do better. It's the notion that I can do what you do better than you do it. Basically, it's the desire to beat your opponent at his own game, in other words. And Porter tried boxing with Danny Garcia initially, but standing 5'6" and change, my man Porter was literally coming up short. His arms was way too short to box with God and Danny Garcia Saturday night. And after getting drilled with a looping right hand in round 3, it seemed to wake Porter up, and he got back to being himself, and effectively the fight was his from that point onwards. The biggest difference, as I stated, I believe, in my last podcast, and I know I did in my article, the biggest difference was Porter's athletic pressure. He wouldn't just attack from a straight line, so Danny didn't know which way he was coming from. And he kept Danny guessing, I should say, by feinting and jabbing his way in sometimes, or just flat out lunging in at other times. Danny's more methodical approach, it kept him a half step behind Porter the remainder of the fight, and thus the unanimous decision. Now, while Porter clearly won the fight, it's not like he wiped his ass with Danny or anything. You know, Danny has nothing to be ashamed of. Just as Keith Thurman clearly beat Porter and Garcia without necessarily dominating them also. There's always been levels to this shit, and what we've learned is the triumvirate of Sean Porter, Danny Garcia, and Keith Thurman are all virtually on the same level, with Thurman being slightly above based on his wins over them. But really, the differences in them are negligible. You can't say like, oh, Thurman, he's just so much better. He's light years better. You can't even say, oh, Porter, man, he's night and day better than Garcia. They're all pretty much kind of in that same box to me. As I said, with Thurman being just a tad, half-notch higher based on having wins over both of them. Thing about it, though, Errol Spence and Terrence Crawford are even higher-level fighters than the trio of Thurman, Porter, and Garcia. Not only that, I think all parties involved know and realize this. I repeat, I think all parties involved know this. That's why the song and dance has been going on with everyone fighting each other but Errol Spence. Guys reluctant to so much as mention his name in their interviews. It's because they know it. They all know Spence is a different level fighter to them. Speaking of Spence, he got in the ring. My man was feeling good. He may have been a little tipsy, I don't know. He was very much appreciated by the Barclays Brooklyn crowd, and playfully yet seriously called out Porter. I'm playing, but I'm serious, man. I'm playing, but I'm serious. And then Porter said to Jim Gray, do I look worried? But hell, within minutes, like by the time of the post-fight press conference, Porter was already saying Yordanis Ugas was his mandatory and he wasn't sure if he'd have to handle that piece of business first. Look, man, we all know how this works. If the Porters want Errol Spence next, the WBC will accommodate them. It's a money fight, a unification fight. There's no way the WBC will say no, we don't want the sanctioning fee for this big potential pay-per-view against Errol Spence. We'd rather wait and just get this sanctioning fee from you facing your Dana's Ugas. Like, they're not going to come to Porter like that. And Porter knows that we know that. Spence had a bit of a rant himself at the post-fight press conference, speaking on being on different sides of the proverbial street and how that makes a potential Spence-Crawford fight problematic. I mean, literally, every meaningful welterweight is with PBC, Showtime, and Al Heyman, except for Terrence Crawford. And while the Heyman welterweights, they'll be fighting each other, who exactly is Crawford going to fight to keep his value high? Who's going to keep his name on the radar, keep him marketable? Who's the person that Bob Arum can put him in with to continue generating $3 million paydays? Spence said Chris Algieri is better than anyone Crawford's beat, which I disagree with. But that said, Crawford definitely hasn't beaten anyone better than Kell Brook or Lamont Peterson, in my opinion. Long story short, the longer it takes for Spence-Crawford to happen, Spence's resume will be that much better with each fight. And with that, he'll become more and more locked in as the A-side of any negotiation with Crawford in Top Rank. They will have no leverage at all, like none. So basically, it'll boil down to how badly Crawford wants to fight, and if he's willing to demand Bob Arum and Top Rank allow him to take it. That's all I got for now, y'all. From the home of the three-piece combos, Pugilism Company, this is Reed, BBS, Blackbird Sugar, Bachelor's in Boxing Studies. When all is said and done, there's nothing left to say or do.